Level 1, The Broken Loom. You are 7 years old, Dunfermline, Scotland, 1842. The sound wakes you before the light does. Wood striking wood, threads snapping under tension. Your father's hands moving faster than they've ever moved. He is a handloom weaver. So was his father. So was his father's father. For 3 generations, this sound has meant food on the table. Now it means something else. A power loom in a factory across town can do in an hour what your father does in a day. The merchants stop buying from him. The orders dry up one by one. You watch him sell the loom itself for scraps of silver. The machine that fed your family for 100 years, now worth less than firewood. Your mother opens a small shop selling boiled sheep's feet to keep you fed. She works nights stitching shoes by candlelight. Your father sits by the window some evenings and says nothing at all. You are 7 years old and you already understand something most children never learn. The world does not owe your family anything. It only takes. Level 2, The Crossing. You are 13. 1848. The ship is called the Wiscasset, and it smells like salt and sickness and too many bodies in too little space. Your family has sold everything they own for 4 tickets to America. Your father sits below deck most days, quiet, a man who never recovered from watching his craft become obsolete. Your mother is the one who pushed for this. She has 2 brothers already in Pittsburgh. She is the one holding this family together, and you notice it. You file that fact away. Weeks later, you step off a canal boat into Allegheny, Pennsylvania, a factory town thick with coal smoke that turns the snow black before it hits the ground. Your father finds work weaving table linens by hand, the same dying trade that broke him in Scotland. You are 13 years old, in a country that speaks your language but shares none of your history. You have nothing. You are about to learn exactly how far nothing can take you. Level 3, The Bobbin Boy. You are still 13, a cotton mill on the edge of town, 6 days a week, 12 hours a day. Your job is simple and merciless. You crawl beneath spinning machinery to replace empty bobbin spools before the thread runs out. The room is deafening. The air is thick with cotton lint that coats your lungs. You earn $1.20 a week. Your father earns less. Your mother's shoe money is what actually keeps the family fed some weeks, and you notice that too. A man doesn't forget who fed him. You take a second job at night, tending a boiler, feeding coal into a furnace in a dark cellar, terrified every single shift that the thing will explode. You don't complain. Complaining doesn't pay rent. You watch the men who own the mill arrive in carriages, and you do not resent them. You study them. Somewhere underneath the exhaustion, a single thought is already forming. This will not be your whole life. Level 4, The Telegraph Boy. You are 14. A telegraph office in Pittsburgh needs a messenger, and you talk your way into the job before anyone else can take it. You learn every street, every business, every important face in the city within weeks. Not because anyone asks you to, but because knowing things is the only leverage a poor boy has. At night, after your shifts end, you stay behind and teach yourself Morse code by ear, tapping out messages until you can read them faster than the men twice your age who've worked the wire for years. Within a year, you're operating the telegraph yourself, one of the fastest in the state. Important men start noticing the boy who never seems to stop working. One of them is a railroad superintendent named Thomas Scott. He offers you a job as his personal telegraph operator and secretary. You are 17 years old, and you have just stepped onto the first rung of a ladder that will not stop climbing for the rest of your life. Level 5, The Apprentice of Capital. You are 18. Working directly under Scott at the Pennsylvania Railroad, you watch how money actually moves in this country, not through wages, but through ownership. Scott offers you a chance to buy shares in a company building sleeping cars for trains. You don't have the money. Your mother mortgages the family's small house without hesitation to raise it. You buy the stock. Within a year, the dividends alone are paying your father's old wages many times over. Something clicks into place. Wages are a ceiling. Ownership has no ceiling at all. You reinvest every dollar. You buy into an oil field, into a bridge company, into ironworks. Always the same principle repeating. Put capital where growth compounds and let time do the rest of the work. By your late 20s, you are earning more from investments than from your railroad salary. The bobbin boy from the cotton mill is becoming something the mill owners never saw coming. Level 6, The War Years. You are 26, 1861. The Union needs its telegraph lines and railroads running flawlessly to move troops and supplies, and Thomas Scott is put in charge of exactly that. He brings you with him to Washington. You help rebuild severed telegraph lines under threat of Confederate raids. You organize the rail network that keeps the Union Army supplied. It's dangerous, unglamorous work, and you're good at it. More than that, you're watching at scale how an entire nation's industry can be mobilized, coordinated, and driven toward a single outcome. When the war ends, most men return home changed by what they witnessed on battlefields. You return home changed by what you witnessed in logistics. You have just seen firsthand what industrial power looks like when it's organized correctly. You intend to build exactly that. Only this time, you intend to own it. Level 7, the bet on steel. You are 34, 1869. You travel to England and stand in a factory watching something that stops you cold. The Bessemer process, a method of converting iron into steel faster and cheaper than anyone in America is currently doing. Most industrialists see an interesting new technique. You see the entire future of construction, of railroads, of cities themselves. You sell off your other investments, the oil, the bridges, the sleeping cars, and pour everything into one bet, steel. You build a mill outside Pittsburgh and name it after the railroad executive who once gave a poor telegraph boy his first real chance. You don't just build furnaces. You buy the iron ore mines that feed them. You buy the railroads that carry the ore. You buy the ships that cross the lakes. Every link in the chain, end to end, under one roof, one name. Competitors are still buying materials from other companies. You no longer buy from anyone. You own the entire supply chain, and it makes you faster and cheaper than every rival in the country combined. Level 8, the Empire of Iron. You are 45. Carnegie Steel is no longer a company, it's a machine that eats every competitor in its path. You obsess over cost accounting the way other men obsess over profit, because you understand something they don't. Whoever produces steel the cheapest wins, always, regardless of the market. You tear down and rebuild your own mills the moment newer technology exists, even mills that are barely a few years old, even when your own engineers protest that the equipment still works. Waste is the only sin you recognize. Your workers labor 12-hour shifts, 7 days a week, in heat that melts rubber boot soles to the floor. You are rarely at the mills yourself anymore. You write essays instead, about wealth, about duty, about how the rich owe something back to the society that made them rich. You call it noble. The men working your furnaces would use a different word. That gap between the man on the page and the man who owns the mills is about to open into something you cannot write your way out of. Level 9, the strike. You are 57. Summer, 1892. You are in Scotland, an ocean away when it happens. Your steel plant in Homestead, Pennsylvania, the plant carrying your name, cuts wages and locks out its union workers. You left the decision in the hands of your partner, a hard, unyielding man named Henry Clay Frick, and you knew exactly what kind of man he was when you handed him the reins. Frick surrounds the plant with a fence topped in barbed wire. He hires 300 armed Pinkerton guards and floats them up the river on barges in the dead of night. The workers are waiting. Gunfire erupts from both banks. By the time it ends, at least 9 workers and several guards are dead. State militia occupies the town. You send a telegram from Scotland expressing your support for Frick's handling of it. The newspapers do not forgive you for the distance. The workers do not forgive you for the silence. For the rest of your life, no matter how many buildings bear your name, this is the name that follows it everywhere. You built an empire on the backs of men. At Homestead, the empire showed its hand. Level 10, the sale. You are 66. 1901, a financier named J.P. Morgan sends word that he wants to buy you out. All of it. The mills, the mines, the railroads, the entire integrated machine you spent 30 years assembling. You name your price on a single sheet of paper, $480 million. Morgan doesn't blink. He shakes your hand and tells you that you are now the richest man in the world. You are 66 years old, and the boy who once crawled under spinning machinery for $1.20 a week has just sold his life's work for more money than most nations hold in reserve. You expect the number to feel like triumph. Instead, walking out of that meeting, you feel something closer to a debt coming due. You have spent 3 decades taking. You have exactly the rest of your life left to give it back. Level 11, the giving. You are 66, and you have already written the essay that will define your final chapter, a call for the rich to die poor, having spent their fortunes rebuilding the world that made them wealthy. You mean every word of it. Over the next 18 years, you give away roughly 90% of everything you own. 2,500 public libraries rise across America, Britain, and beyond. Buildings you insist must be free and open to anyone, because you remember exactly what it felt like to be a boy with no money and no way in. You fund universities, concert halls, pension funds for workers, an institute for peace between nations that saw 2 world wars anyway. None of it undoes Homestead. You know that. You write about it, obliquely, for the rest of your life. A wound that money was never quite able to close. In August of 1919, at your estate in Massachusetts, your body finally gives out at 83 years old. You started with nothing in a weaver's cottage in Scotland. You ended as the richest man who ever lived, and then you gave almost all of it away. Between those two facts sits every contradiction of the man you became. And now, you are history.